Good evening and welcome to our second daily roundup from the 2023 Tag World Cup here at the University of Limerick. Today saw an action-packed day for the Great Britain sides, all 8 of them in action, 13 games played overall, and it was an incredibly successful day for the GB programme with 11 wins coming across the board. We're going to take you through some of those over the next few minutes, as well as bringing you some interviews with the winning players. So starting off with the men's categories, looking at men's 40s first, they had 2 games today. Remember, this is the first World Cup that the Great Britain men's 40s have ever played in. They opened their account with a win over France and then followed that up with a win over the Alliance Rebels team in Game 2 and will be in action again tomorrow. Men's 30s, well, their job isn't done tonight. We've just watched them in a stunning win against New Zealand Exiles, where it was tight throughout and they ended the game, unfortunately, with only 6 players on the pitch due to a couple of sin bins, but held on and claimed the win after previously beating Hong Kong China earlier in the day. They've one more game to go, as I say, and that's against Ireland Exiles at 8 p.m. this evening. Final men's side in the GB programme, Men's Open, they started against Lebanon, who they have developed a fierce rivalry with since the 2018 World Cup. They were looking good in that one, leading at half-time, but ultimately did come up just 2 points short. But they followed that up with a bounce-back win in the rain and some tough conditions against Australia Indigenous. And following that match, we caught up with 2 of their superstar players. Okay, Great Britain 12, Australia Indigenous 1. Hell of a win for you guys. The wet jerseys and the mud all over them is a bit of a clue to the challenges you had on offer in that one. How do you get yourselves together to get performance like that in biblical conditions against a side that you've never played before?
Well, we're used to the conditions because we're English, most of us. But coming over here, you've just got to do what you're used to doing. Just simple, short balls. We didn't really throw it around as much. We just play in the conditions, and I think we played them really well today. Played the referees, kept them on side. Very few silly errors, which I think we have been bad for historically. Bouncing back after this morning, which was a disappointing loss. I think, boys did really well.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking there about the simple moves, simple passes. Elliot, with your role, a lot of playmaking going on. How did that weather impact it, and how were you able to really push through and still get so much style on your passes?
I mean, you've just got to try and minimise errors when the conditions are like that. So making sure the passes are safe, maybe taking a little bit off them, but it's just trying to make it so you have low error count, particularly in your own half when it's like that. So maybe throw in less risky passes and so on. You just got to keep it clean.
It looked like Bambi on ice for some people, JJ, but not for you. You were sprinting through the middle, scoring some great tries. Take us through it.
Yeah, it was a new set of wheels. I think it probably helped. And just nice to be given the opportunity to open the taps and go for it. It was off a kick-off, the one where I ran the length, so just pinned the ears back and went, and luckily just a couple of tags, missed a couple of tags, but those spaces are created because of everyone running around you. If everyone's running their holes, again, as I say, keeping it simple, everyone chop your holes and the space will appear, and because of the conditions they'll fall off tags, and they did.
And obviously you had that tough match against Lebanon earlier on, 2-point loss in that one. How does it feel now as a team to bounce back with a result like that, have that under your belt for the rest of the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good way to end the day. Coming into it, I personally have never played in the Australian team, so you don't really know what you're expecting before the day. But to kind of come off the back of a good win there after a frustrating loss this morning, it's a great way to finish the day.
Excellent. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Elliot. More to come from Men's Open tomorrow. We'll be bringing you their live stream game against Italy in the morning. Join us for that one. Great Britain Men's Open amongst the wins, like the rest of the GB teams today. Moving on to the women's side of the competition and starting off with women's 35s. Again, one of our newest sides in this programme. Like the men's 40s, they started their World Cup campaign on the same pitch against the same country, France, as the men's 40s, and it was an even bigger win for the women's 35s in that one. They just had the one game today, so after that they were able to stay around, watch some of their opposition that they'll be facing over the coming days, and then have an early bath tonight. Women's 30s, they had 2 games and they scored a heap of points today. They did really well against Australia Indigenous, and then it was their familiar foes Ireland who were up next. Ireland themselves had taken a big win against Australia, one of the favourites in this category, first thing this morning, but GB ended up with a win over Ireland. Moving to Women's Open, they started off 9 a.m. in the crisp conditions and got a win over Australia Indigenous before drawing with Ireland in their second game of the day. They then had a third match where they beat Great Britain Exiles. After their first game of the day, we caught up with a couple of their players to see how it all went down for them. So we've just seen Great Britain Women's Open get off to a winning start, 13-3 against Australia Indigenous. It was a crisp morning, 9 a.m. We're not really used to playing tag this early in the day. After such a long build-up to this World Cup, how does it feel, though, to finally be underway and in such style?
Oh, I'm absolutely buzzing to be here. I think we've worked so hard the last few months or few years, really. We've been together for 2 years, most of us, and I think we've just been waiting for this moment. And Willow said right before we went on, she was like, we've trained for years for this, and now we've got to do what we've trained for, and I think that's exactly what we did. Everyone came off that pitch absolutely beaming with joy, and I think that's just the start of what's going to be a great tournament for us. Hopefully.
Anything to add, Tess?
No, she said she got it all in that.
Laura summed it up perfectly there, hasn't she? Well, Tess, you got an awesome box try in that second half, breaking through. Everyone from the Aussie Indigenous trying to grab your tags, but not managing to, and ended it in the box just for extra points.
Yeah.
Talk us through it, play by play.
I think it just kind of opened up down that left side, and Ellen with her true dummy just took 2 or 3 players out and a gap opened up, and I just I was in the right place at the right time.
She loves the dummy, doesn't
She
she?
does love a dummy, yeah,
We
for
all
sure.
fall for it.
Yeah.
Laura, you had a great splash over the line, and it is a little bit wet out there. How did that feel?
Well, I'm actually quite upset because I think I've stained my top, but it was great. I think Clusie just gave me the ball in a hole, so I was told to hit every hole, so I'm going to hit every hole and hopefully I'll get through like I did today.
They were both fantastic tries amongst a whole heap of them today. You got 2 hours to your next game, so how do you now, as athletes, as top level tag rugby players, turn yourselves around, move on from that game and focus on the next one?
I think we just talked about it there. We're going to leave the chat about this game here. We're going to cool down after this, probably get a little bit of food and water on, etc., and just relax and get the heads right for the next game.
And moving on to the mixed sides, Mixed Open, we saw them last night when they opened their account against South Africa with a wonderful win there. They followed that one up today, playing Japan in the bowl in one of the heaviest rainstorms I think anyone has seen in these parts for a while, and that's saying something. They managed to take that victory to 0 against Japan with 24 points on the GB side. Mixed seniors only had the one game today as well. They were also up against South Africa to open their campaign, and that was a much closer affair than it has been perhaps between those two sides in recent years. But Great Britain still managed to pick up the win. So as I said at the top of the programme, 13 games today for Great Britain, 11 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Couldn't really have asked for a better run of results. Quick look ahead to tomorrow, where all of the sides will be in action throughout the day. But if you are following along back home in the UK or elsewhere around the world, there will be 3 Great Britain games on the live stream. Pitch 2 will see men's 30s face Great Britain Exiles, most of them coming from Australia, while Pitch 1 with commentary will have men's open against Italy at 1 p.m, and that's GMT, and then women's open at 3 p.m. against Vietnam. So do join us if you can for that, and if you're over here in Limerick, we hope to see you by the side of the pitches cheering the teams on. We may well even see Mixed Open in action at the end of the day in the Super 6. Thank you for joining us.